kids, get the popcorn now.
The newest entry into the MCU is here, and of course we have to speculate who else could have slapped the main villain around if they weren't elsewhere in the universe. Gorr the God Butcher, with the power of the Necrosword, proved himself to be an intimidating and extremely powerful villain. He was able to take on Thor, Jane Foster, and Valkyrie all at once, and walk away with Stormbreaker as a prize. In the end, he was basically defeated, but crawled his way to eternity. And though Gorr appeared to have taken down some worthy gods off screen, we have to imagine that other characters we have met in the MCU would have been able to take the God Butcher down just as easily.
How exciting!
Who are these characters of which we speak? Let's take a look right now. It's safe to say that one of the most powerful magic users in the MCU, who just so happened to put the entire multiverse at risk, could take down the God Butcher. Especially corrupted by the power of the Darkhold, the Scarlet Witch is one of the most powerful characters the MCU has ever seen. It even took convincing herself to destroy herself, since no one else could. The Necrosword wielded by Gorr is very much shrouded in dark energy, but it stands no chance against the power of the Darkhold. Wanda Maximoff is a natural-born witch, whose powers were enhanced by the Mind Stone, and she became one of the strongest Avengers capable of battling Thanos all on her own. Her mind became twisted and warped, and given that Gorr is driven by the loss of his child, Wanda can double that aggression with a little sprinkle of dead robot husband on top. The Mad Titan brought the universe to its knees in the MCU. With the power of the Infinity Stones, Thanos was able to take on large separate groups of the Avengers with ease. If Gorr gets to use the Necrosword, then Thanos is coming to this fight stacked with the Infinity Gauntlet. Though I'd bet money he might be able to beat him without it. With the power of the stones, Thanos was able to rewrite reality, reverse time, and kill half of the universe. It's true that the Necrosword gave Gorr incredible power, and he was able to take down several gods, which Thanos honestly considered himself to be by the end of his run. However, I think this would be a close fight that falls to the advantage of the wrinkly purple dude. All Thanos would really have to do is turn Gorr into those cement blocks like he did to Drax. That's enough to ruin anyone's day. One of the most powerful villains ever to appear in the MCU probably gets forgotten often, given that he has only appeared in animated form. In an alternate universe from the show What If, we found out what would happen if Ultron won. He created Vision's body and successfully uploaded his consciousness into it. He successfully destroyed the Earth, and when Thanos arrived, he took the Infinity Stones from him and became Infinity Ultron. This version of Ultron became so powerful that after destroying the entire universe and everyone in it, he gained a multiversal awareness that allowed him to do battle with the Watcher, and access to an untold number of realities. It took a ragtag group of multiversal guardians to basically trick Infinity Ultron into losing, but not before he destroyed an unbelievable amount. Infinity Ultron would be an unbeatable opponent for Gorr the God Butcher, since there was not a single person in his universe who could take him out. Odin, the All-Father, is one god that Gorr just missed out on. Unfortunately, long before Gorr picked up the Necrosword, Odin joined Valhalla, and caused a whole other mess of issues. While he was around, however, Odin was able to defeat such powerful creatures like the Dark Elves, the Frost Giants, and his own daughter Hela. Odin was one of the most feared conquerors and leaders in the entire galaxy. He wielded such powerful weapons as the Odin Force and the Odin Sword, and unless he was taking an extended nap, there's not a single person who could hope to come up against him. If Thor was able to take on, survive, and eventually beat Gorr the God Butcher, I would think it's safe to say that his father probably could have done it with one eye closed. Though, one can only guess what he would have done if he got Eternity's wish. Probably would have banished something else.
Anyone else?
One of the newest heroes in the MCU is one of a kind, given that there's no other one like her in any universe.
I'm from another universe.
America Chavez wielded a power unseen by just about anyone, and now that she is finally starting to harness that power, I believe that she could take on Gorr the God Butcher. In the very early stages of gaining control over her powers, she was able to battle one-on-one with the Scarlet Witch, and punch her to a dimension that ultimately convinced her to stop murdering people. That's why I think America Chavez could beat Gorr. Not only could she do battle with him, but she could punch him into dimensions that either kill him or force him to face his still alive daughter, only now as the monster that the Necrosword has created. Not everyone needs to beat Gorr by punching him, though trust me, she could do that part too. This is an outside shot, and though he definitely proved himself to be one of the biggest jerks in the universe, I still believe Zeus is one of the most powerful. Gorr never made his way to Omnipotent City, and therefore never came face to face with probably the most famous god, Zeus. Zeus proved himself to be arrogant, lazy, and downright cruel, but I still think there's enough power there that kept Gorr from even trying to fight him, instead taking the shortcut to eternity. Zeus took a lightning bolt from Thor straight through the chest and still somehow wound up alive at the end of the film, basically ignoring the gaping hole in his chest. The power of Zeus is incredible, and Thor thought they could beat Gorr just by using his most powerful weapon. Overall, if Zeus got up off his butt and started trying a little harder, I think he could have helped Thor end the Gorr problem a lot sooner. The Watcher is one of the most powerful beings in the entire multiverse, though he has sworn never to intervene. When Infinity Ultron threatened the destruction of the multiverse, the Watcher fought him one-on-one, and while he did put up a good fight, he did not come out on top. Just being able to square off with Infinity Ultron shows an insane amount of power, and on top of all that, the Watcher is probably the greatest strategist ever to exist. If the Watcher couldn't beat Gorr himself, he would probably just be able to put together a group of unlikely heroes from all corners of the multiverse to pull off the exact job he needs done. I don't think Gorr would even get that far though. Even in the shadows, the Watcher sees everything. Carol Danvers has proven herself to be one of the most powerful heroes in the entire MCU. She, like the Scarlet Witch, took on Thanos all on her own, and given that her powers derive from the Space Stone enhanced by Kree training and technology, there's very few people who can match her power. When Captain Marvel goes full binary, it almost makes fights unfun to watch, given that everyone knows the person she's fighting stands no chance. She just needs more time in the MCU, which she will be getting soon to show off that power. She has taken down entire fleets of ships just by flying through them, so I think a small skinny guy with a dark sword and a vendetta against God should be a walk in the park for the namesake of the cinematic universe. One of the most undoubtedly powerful villains from the MCU would be an incredible fight against Gorr the God Butcher. I'm talking about Kurse from Thor the Dark World. Algrim was Malekith's right-hand man who crushed the last Kurse stone and became a giant hulking monster who was about a second away from straight up killing the God of Thunder. Kurse's power is intense, and it comes from a similar darkness that Gorr's power seems to rely on. Using the power of the shadows is likely the least intimidating thing to a dark elf, and that's why I think Kurse would find Gorr's attacks cute at best. Kurse could go toe-to-toe with Gorr and never get tired. With one well-placed punch, I think Kurse would knock Gorr's head straight off his body. There's no tricks or strategy here, but Kurse would give him a straight-up beating, and heck, he'd probably prefer the fight take place in the Shadow World. It's safe to say the ruler of the Dark Dimension would be just fine going up against a guy who uses the shadows as a weapon. The awesome might of Dormammu simply cannot be defeated. Doctor Strange basically had to just let him win over and over again in order to technically defeat him. Gorr might consider Dormammu a god, and therefore want to butcher him, but the fact is that he is a much more powerful entity. The Dark Dimension gives Dormammu incredible power, and if he used just one of the ways he killed Doctor Strange a million times on Gorr, I don't think the Necrosword can create time loops. This is a fight that just wouldn't even be fair. The Necrosword poking at Dormammu would probably feel similar to a toothpick. Doctor Strange has certainly had a history of dealing with villains who dabble in dark arts.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
But he was never more powerful than when he started doing the same. When he needed enough power to overcome an absolute point in time, Doctor Strange spent a great amount of time absorbing the energy from multidimensional beings, using one of the darkest forms of magic to do so. Dark Strange became so powerful that he destroyed the regular version of himself, and his entire universe along with it. He was the most powerful member of the Guardians of the Multiverse, and is entrusted by the Watcher in several tasks. This OP Doctor Strange would likely have no problem dealing with Gorr the God Butcher. His mastery of the magical arts is something that I don't think Gorr would be able to overcome. As far as I'm aware, Gorr does not have the ability to remove people's mouth.
What mouth?
So this next guy should be good. One of, if not the most powerful members of the Illuminati in an alternate universe from the Multiverse of Madness was Blackagar Boltagon, leader of the Inhumans and keeper of the Terrigen Mists. Black Bolt is an unbelievably powerful Inhuman, whose sonic voice can reduce a person to nothing with just a whisper. One well-placed strike from Black Bolt and Gorr would likely cease to exist. Heck, whatever planet Gorr is standing on would likely cease to exist. So long as Mr. Fantastic doesn't just tell Gorr how to beat Black Bolt, I think the famed ruler wins this battle 10 times out of 10. Gorr could even try to hide in the shadows, and I think Black Bolt's sonic voice would force him out. I think several of the Eternals would stand a decent chance against Gorr the God Butcher, but if I had to pick one to put my money on, I think the safe bet is Ikaris. This quote-unquote villain was again another example of someone who had to take themselves out, since no one else could. Sure, Cersei, Druig, or maybe even Thena would stand a chance against Gorr, but I think Ikaris has the power stacked where it counts. Ikaris has untold strength, flight, super speed, endurance, and laser vision. He's the most well-rounded Eternal and believed to be the most powerful. Ikaris also has a cold-blooded nature not quite seen in any of the other Eternals, not even Druig.
And what's this even made of? Vibranium?
Him and Gorr would have a great fight, and Gorr might be able to sneak his way around the true might of Ikaris, but I seriously doubt it. An outside shot to beat Gorr the God Butcher would be the MCU's newest hero, Miss Marvel. Clearly the Bangle unlocked an abundance of power just waiting to be unleashed by Kamala Khan. She descends from a powerful group of beings known as the Jinn. She draws her power from the Noor dimension, believed to be the MCU's version of Marvel's light dimension. If there's one weapon you should probably use against a villain who weaponizes shadows, it should probably contain the word light. It took Kamala some time, but now that she has a better control over her powers, I think a good fight for her would have been Gorr the God Butcher. He may even underestimate her like he did the children of Asgard, and after the power she displayed, that's a bad idea for anyone to do. The last outside shot I'm putting on this list is another recent addition to the MCU, Moon Knight. I think Mark Spector, or Steven, or Jake, would have a great shot at beating Gorr the God Butcher. And that's even with Gorr wanting to destroy the source of Moon Knight's power, Khonshu. Backed by the power of the Egyptian god of the moon, the multiple personalities of Moon Knight have battled creatures similar to the ones used by Gorr, when Arthur Harrow did essentially the same thing. Moon Knight was even able to die and come back from the afterlife. Overall, and especially if it's the murderous Jake Lockley, the hero Moon Knight definitely has the fighting prowess and connection to the power of the gods that I think could give him just enough to beat Gorr the God Butcher. Gorr proved himself to be one incredible villain in Thor: Love and Thunder. At the end of the day, it was the power of love that took him down, but I think any number of characters could have done the job. Which MCU characters do you think could defeat the God Butcher?